Good evening. Should we get started? Well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Dana?
Here.
Jenkins? Jones?
Here.
Montesino? Rivera?
Here.
Kammer? Here. Sarmiento?
Here. Thank you. If we can please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Well, is it too late to say Happy New Year? Probably. What's the deadline to wish everybody?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's. Okay.
And before Valentine's Day, you're good.
There we go. So we're still good. Well, I hope everybody had a great time and a nice Christmas, New Year's, and we already had one holiday, Martin Luther King holiday. And what else? And I think we have President's Day coming up. But would anybody like to share any of the commissioners, any meetings or any projects that are coming up?
I'd just like to give a little shout out to Coffeyville. Coffeyville, if you guys have not been yet, they're a new business that have relocated here from Santa Cruz, one of, hopefully it's a trend. I went in there for the first time this weekend, and they have such a wonderful operation there, and the staff is so very friendly, and I'm just very happy to have them here in Watsonville. So if you haven't been, I suggest you go and pay them a visit.
And where is that?
It's in the East Lake Shopping Center.
Oh, okay. Anything else? Anybody? Yes.
One thing, and I wanted to ask, I'm pretty sure council passed Vision Zero, the Vision Zero plan. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to say that that's a very exciting thing. Vision Zero is a plan that says that there should be no fatalities or serious injuries among road users. So that's a really great thing, and the police department is on board and with that, and council, and it's a really exciting plan. So thank you to everyone who supports it.
Thank you. Well, I have two items. One of them is the trail and rail versus versus trail only. And so I would like to request that perhaps the city send more information to the residents about the different options, as our voice is very important when people throughout the county are making a decision about their transportation. And I believe that it's probably a unique opportunity for us to have an alternative to Highway 1. But of course, we want to hear from everybody in South County. So I don't know if the city's doing enough to reach out to different communities in English and in Spanish. The other thing that I wanted to mention is this last weekend I attended the wetlands tree planting, and it seems like every year it gets better and better. They had a lot of people, a lot of families, little kids, very excited. A lot of teens as well, and volunteers planting drought-resistant plants and trees, and it was very festive. And I want to congratulate the Parks and Rec and whoever was part of that coordination and the implementation of that project. So thank you. I'd like to open it up to the public for any comments that is, or anything that is not on the agenda. And I don't think we have anybody from the public who would like to make any comments on anything that is not on the agenda, so we'll bring it back to the Planning Commission. And we'll wait for Commissioner Jenkins.
Well, While we're waiting, I concur with what Chair Sarmiento said about the RTC and getting people's voices heard, especially in South County. I've been emailing the RTC and city councils in the county, and it's really important that South County has its voice heard because we have a good bulk of population here, and it's important for us to be heard as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins, I know you're getting situated, but is there anything that you wanted to share with us on any meetings, past meetings or upcoming meetings?
Yes. This will be my last meeting with the commission. We have suddenly decided to move up to a condo which we own in Santa Cruz. And so it's both exciting and sad. We're going to try this for a year and see how it works out. Might be back. Might even be able to use these cards again, Deborah. I've been back and forth on the commission, I guess, 2 or 3 times. Not sure. But it's been a lot of fun. Generally very interesting, and I've enjoyed working with each and every one through the years, and I guess I've seen a lot of different ones through the years. When I first was on the commission, my seatmate was Luis Alejo, and on the other side was the gentleman who worked for Indian Motorcycles over in, he wrote occasional articles for the RP.
Oh, yeah. Martinez?
Yes. And I can always, one tale I'd like to. One day Emilio came to the meeting, and he had always been a great friend of the person who had appointed him. It was always, oh, we have more fun. And he said, I'm going to run against him. And I thought, now, Emilio, what's going through your head? At any rate, he ran, and I guess didn't he serve on the council for a couple of years or 4 years, something like that? I don't know. Anyway, it's been an interesting time, and I'm sure some of you will go on in your planning and political careers, and I will look forward to perhaps working with you in the future. But thank you very much.
On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'm sure I speak for everybody, and also the city, thank you, Dobie. It's been, you've contributed a lot to the community, not only to the Planning Commission, but I know personally at the Cesar Democratic Club, you've been very involved and have contributed a lot, the wetlands, and I can't remember what else you've done that you've been very involved, you and Ann. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I would like to say just quickly the same. We go back a long ways, and
True.
a lot of opinions, and I've gotten used to sitting next to Dobie and listening to some of these long opinions. But over time, you grow to respect them and you really appreciate them. And I would also like to thank you and say it's been a real pleasure serving with you. And I mean that. You're a good person, and it's always good to serve with good people. So thank you.
Thank you for those kind remarks.
Okay, so let's move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for December 5th?
So moved.
A second?
Okay, we have a first and a second.
Dana,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes?
Jones,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Cammer,
Yes.
Sarmiento.
Yes. So the motion passes, approving the minutes for December. Moving on to the public hearings, public hearing to consider Planning Commission recommendation to the City Council to adopt the city's mid-year 2017 to 2018 capital appropriation request and find that the projects are consistent with the general plan filed by the City of Watsonville. And first, we will have a staff report.
I'm new, I don't know how to work things yet. So good evening, my name is Cindy Serwin. I am the Administrative Services Director for the city. I've only been with the city a couple of months, but it is my pleasure to come with you today to talk about a mid-year capital appropriation plan that we're going forward with. It has been, I think, a number of years since the city has funded some capital, so I'm excited to be here with this today. A little bit of background, the charter states that the Planning Commission shall have the power and duty to list and classify annually all proposed public improvements recommended by officers, departments, boards, or commissions of the city, and to recommend to the council and the city manager a coordinated program of proposed public improvements. This isn't necessarily a very large and proposed coordinated public improvements program, but since it is the first capital appropriation I think that the city has done in a number of years, we wanted to give the due respect to the Planning Commission and make sure that you got your chance to see this and review it, and then hopefully recommend it to the full council, which is scheduled to go hopefully later this month. So a little bit of background, maintenance and capital needs for the city were delayed many years after the recession and as Watsonville sort of sluggishly recovered. We are now recovering. In the last few years, the general fund in particular has seen some pretty steady growth. So we feel comfortable putting some money towards this, and we think it's the right thing to do to address our deferred maintenance. So we have a small little bit amount of money coming from last year's audit. We ended the fiscal year 2017 in a better position than we're expected, so we're taking a portion of that money and we're requesting it to be appropriated to these one-time expenditures. It's the right way to use a little bit of excess money. It's one-time revenues, one-time expenditures. So with the little bit that we have available, we went out to departments and actually primarily to city engineers who maintain the city's facilities, and we asked them to prioritize projects. What would they be able to do with the bit of money that we had in the mid-year time frame, knowing that most large capital infrastructure projects take a while to plan and design, et cetera, et cetera. So we basically asked them, where can we get the biggest bang for our buck for a kind of short-term, small appropriation project? As I mentioned, this is using one-time money that we are receiving as fiscal year 2017 ended in a better position than we expected. And we are now working on a very comprehensive capital improvement plan that will be a much bigger in scope and take into context all of the capital needs of the city. Doing that also requires a lot of time, which we didn't want to delay some of these initial projects while we waited for that more comprehensive plan. So that plan is underway and will be coming back to you in May as we're putting together our annual budget. So you have in your packets attached to the resolution the detailed list of all of the projects that are being proposed for this mid-year. This is just a quick summary of where we're getting some of the funds on. We are recommending to appropriate $500,000 of general fund dollars. And then the enterprise funds, primarily water and sewer and solid waste, I think primarily water, are looking to do a couple of projects, and that's coming to $345,000 for a total of $849,000 worth of capital projects. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Jenkins and then Commissioner Rivera.
Could you give us a little detail about what are some of the activities or projects that are covered here,
Yeah.
please, in each of the four?
You have the detailed list. I think in your packets you have a detailed list called Exhibit A with all of the projects.
Oh, excuse me, it's on another page.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the
Gosh, I
back.
should look at the back of pages more often.
Yeah. The majority of the general fund is actually being allocated to the Recreation and Parks Department for a number of different repairs that are needed there, some sprucing up of the parks that we want to do, and some of the facilities that we want to be able to get done before the summer season hits. Again, an impetus for not waiting until the budget is approved at the end of June. There's a small amount going into some maintenance needed at the administrative offices across the street, where Susie and I both have offices and where most of our staff sit. If you ever walk in through that building, has sort of been, it's not necessarily the most pleasant place to work environment for our staff. So we're trying to do some things to make it a little bit more pleasant and to make it a little more just doable for our staff, for our people who have to spend a large part of their day there. Those departments also, I would like to add, are the departments that did a really great job of contributing to that year-end balance. Both the Parks Department and my department, Susie's department, and some of the departments that sit in that building were some of the departments that underexpended their last year's budget. So there's actually a really nice connection between who we're sort of rewarding and letting spend a little bit of this extra money. These are the departments that also were very fiscally responsible in the last few years and contributed to growing that balance that we're now appropriating. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Rivera?
I'm curious how you arrived at these figures for each one of these line items. I don't need you to go down each line item, but I mean, in this you're requesting $100,000 for 2 local moves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just curious, where does that so it looks like the IT department, $35,000 coming from the general fund and $15,000 from the enterprise fund, and then for the move for the parks department, that's all coming out of general fund, but another $50,000.
Right. So these estimates were actually arrived at by our city engineers, who do a lot of the space planning and maintaining of our facilities. Moves are expensive, and as the city has been able to grow, as it's recovered from in the last few years and finally kind of crawled out a little bit, our space needs, our departments are growing as well, and our space is becoming a real commodity. The police department, for example, is really kind of stacked on top of each other, which is why we are looking for a space where the IT department can move. Right now, the entire IT department is housed on the second floor of the police department's building, and the police department needs that space. So also the old jail where the park department currently has its customer service has some real parking issues, and it really isn't very customer friendly. So we are looking at moving the customer service components of the park department up to this building on the 4th floor, where there's a little bit parking. It's a little nicer for all the departments. That creates a nice space for IT to move into in a place that doesn't have to be so public facing, which is the old jail, which isn't very, actually, it's not the nicest of buildings. So if we could put our IT department, unfortunately, in there, but they're not necessarily public facing since they're an internal service, that then opens up the space that the police department can expand into to meet their needs, their growing needs.
Okay. The reason that I'm kind of stuck on those 2 line items is I work in the moving industry, so those 2 figures kind of jumped out at me.
Okay.
How did your engineers come up with those figures? That's what I want to know.
Moves are actually they're more expensive than you think. I mean, we do have to build out for the staff and the configurations that we need for the parks department to have the customer service counter that they need to be able to receive the public into that space. The moving IT department has a whole host of issues. Into an old building, you have to make sure the wiring is up to date. Susie and I toured where IT is at right now, for example, and they talked about having copper threading through the carpeting to make sure that static wasn't created because of all the sensitive IT equipment happening, getting the networking and the wiring pulled and set up. Those things, they do add up. If the money is not spent, it would then be available to go back to be reallocated to other projects. These are the best estimates of our engineers who deal with our space planning needs and moves. These are the best estimates we have. And we do know that moves are expensive.
We have estimates from our engineers that one cubicle is $5,000. And at the old jail, we would have to, the old jail has air conditioning in half of it. For IT to move there, we would need to install air conditioning on the other half. So these are all of the little technical things, as well as upgrading all the wiring for IT. It adds up. We don't have a detailed estimate at this point.
Right.
You don't think they could all be on one side of the room, possibly, and we work through that to save some cash?
Yeah, I wish we did.
But it
I mean,
seems
it's
like
just
that.
IT, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it seems like the IT department has already been on the second floor of the police department. I thought at some point I heard that the police department was going to move to a different site. Therefore,
We have no plans to move the police department. We have no other facilities to move the entire police department at this point.
so the IT department, though, is already built. The second floor is already built with everything that they will have to install at the new building.
Yes.
And it doesn't make any sense to just keep it on the second floor and.
Well, as I said, the police department is expanding, and I think rightfully so, as the city is growing. The city, as you all know, has Measure G money, which funded new officers, and so the police department is growing. That facility is locked and highly secure and has the security needs that the police department needs to have met. So it's also, unfortunately, these things are more complicated than I think people would like them to be. But to simply put the police department's growth into that other old building doesn't necessarily meet their security needs.
Oh, I'm not saying for them
Right.
to move into that
So-
new building.
so
And
as we're-
just to stop you for a minute, I think you're giving us really simple answers and giving us the same information over and over. I don't feel very comfortable with the explanation that you're giving us, and I have been at the police department. I have toured the police department, the entire department, and I know that they have some needs. I can't imagine how much are they growing. I don't think we're hiring dozens of police officers where they would need, and most of them are patrolled and they have different shifts. So I'm a little
I believe
perplexed to how this is being developed.
I believe the space needs are not necessarily for officers on patrol, because you're correct, they're not there. This is for detective work, this is for investigations, this is for crime analysts, this is more
Evidence. They need to bring
Evidence.
evidence onto site because it's not in a secure location right now.
I'd
And
like to get back to my question here, and I think this is kind of what's driving the concern here is that we're being asked to make a recommendation to the city council about these capital improvement projects, but when asked a fairly simple question about how we arrive at these costs, the answer is that our city engineers made these assessments, and how the assessments were made aren't being presented to us, and it's just things add up, so that's kind of the way it is. I understand that these improvements are probably needed and they are expensive, and I don't necessarily have a problem, recommending approving these, but I feel like we should have access to better information than what we have right now. The only thing that is making me feel more comfortable about it is that if there is leftover money, then it will go back into the general fund, or is that correct?
Of course.
Correct.
Of course.
But this I would not say is detailed. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, The information that we were given is that they're not going to go out and get detailed, more detailed information until Planning Commission Council have actually approved the allocation. And then once we get estimates, more detailed information, then we'll know exactly how much it'll cost. But until that allocation is approved, they're not going to move forward with getting more information.
And that's the city engineers?
No, it's management.
So then we could potentially have another budget that we have to approve, which could be either more or less than this proposed allocation?
No,
or-
this is just for the mid-year. So let's say if we don't use it, if these projects don't pan out before June when we do the annual budget, or the bids, the estimates come in too high and we don't have enough money, then we'll just reallocate the money to something else in the general fund and wait until the next year's budget.
So this is
Yes.
kind of the maximum,
Yes,
these are the maximum amounts,
correct,
and there isn't going to be any more detail at this point.
correct,
You can't go over these amounts for the projects that you've stated.
correct.
So the simplicity of it is, we're just approving a maximum number.
Per project.
And of course, the trust factor is that these will be done the most efficiently way possible to keep the cost. I mean, we're not going to hire the most expensive people to do this, I would assume, the city's.
Correct.
So we're kind of a rock and a hard spot. We're not going to get more information.
They're asking us to set the ceiling.
That's right.
They're asking us
Correct.
to approve the ceiling.
That's all they're doing. So they're not going to provide us those details. I guess if you want to look at it from that standpoint, do you trust the city in order to function at an efficient level with the funds that we're providing this max? Because we're not going to get any more information. We're not going to see 3 bids for it.
And to your point, the trust factor is we've given them a max.
That's it. That's the way I see
So
it, unless I'm
That-
misunderstanding.
So there is a
Right.
backstop.
There's a max based on recommendations by the
If the
city.
city doesn't like it and it goes to the next level, they could ask for the same information and not approve it. All we're doing is moving it from this process to the next step, right?
Correct.
That's it.
Council.
Correct.
Right. They have the right to say no. They may disagree with the same presentation and have the same problems that we do. I doubt it, but they could. My feeling is that we move forward with the recommendation and that we approve it, and
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Comments? I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead, start down.
Yes. Toby?
Curious, line 3 of the detail, parks, city plaza improvements, it has a general fund expenditure of $37,000, and it has a total of $30,000.
That is a typo.
Is $7,000 for that trip to South America? That I've been hearing about?
That would be a typo, thank you.
No, that's for your going away party.
Oh, okay. Well, in that
In
case,
South America.
it's
We're all
hardly
going.
approved. Do you have any detail about the tree and landscape improvements at Crestview? There are some sort of playing fields there, and then there's a tennis court. Idea of what some of it's not a great deal of
No.
expenditure, but the trees are sometimes really make the tennis court very dirty.
And-
But they're
and-
beautiful
And
redwood
sometimes
trees.
unusable. We go over there and play sometimes.
They're beautiful redwood trees, but unfortunately, they've all grown up in the wintertime, when we have a winter.
I actually don't have more detail on that
Well,
project either.
Anything they do there, I'm sure will be an improvement. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anna, you had a comment?
Just a couple of things. I don't know, can I say this? Having worked for the school district and having worked in very old buildings, and having been through that process where we had old buildings and we had to upgrade them with technology, it's quite a process when you have a classroom with 2 or 3 plugs, and you have to, accommodate. So I totally get that these expenditures seem to me fairly reasonable, to be honest. I know that the building across the street is older, and it does take a lot to upgrade things to the level and speeds that are needed in today's technologically focused world. So I understand. I just wanted to throw that out there. The other thing is I want to say thank you for all the upgrades that are listed for Ramsey Park, because again, that's the community center the youth center is an older building, and it does need a lot of upgrading, and that's a really heavily used park. So that and Callahan. So thank you for that.
I will say that all of the projects that are listed for the Parks Department went to the Parks Commission last night, and they approved. They approved to accept these projects and move them forward.
Thank you. So we have a first and a second, and roll call, please.
Dana,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Hammer,
Yes.
Sarmiento.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. No, just, full speed ahead.
Okay, so now we're moving forward to the public hearing to consider an application for a special use permit with environmental review to allow the establishment of a tasting room in conjunction with an existing winery at 135 Aviation Way, Suite 16, filed by Mark Hoover, applicant.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I'm Justin Meek, Principal Planner for the City of Watsonville. So for the second item for tonight is a special use permit application for establishing a retail sales component for an existing winery off Aviation Way. As you can, as provided in the staff report and presented here, this requires an issuance of the permit by the Planning Commission and allows for up to 20% of the tenant space to be used for retail sales. Part of the analysis will look at making sure that there's adequate parking provided on site, and that the sales, of course, will be incidental to the principal winery industrial park use. The existing establishment already has an ABC license for the winery, and that type of license, a type 2 license, does allow already for the sale of wine for consumption off the premises, as well as wine tastings on the premises as well. So what this is just codifying at the local level that they can go ahead and, or permitting, I should say, at the local level that they can go ahead and have a tasting rooms on site, but they would not have to get a new license. An aerial photo showing the location. As you can see, it's near Airport Boulevard, and of course the airport as well, in an area that's zoned IP for industrial park. This particular facility has a lot of parking on site, approximately 117 spaces, and since the tasting room would be open to the public on the weekends when most of the other businesses are closed, there would be more than adequate parking for this purpose. This has been also reviewed by the police department. They raised no issues with this business having a wine tasting room. And of course, as part of the conditions of approval, there are the standard conditions, including, for example, lead training of staff at the site. So as conditioned, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the special use permit as it meets the requirements of the Watsonville Municipal Code. With that, I conclude and open up to questions. I would note that the applicant is here and is making himself available to any questions that you may have as well.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff, or should we, would you like to hear from the applicant first?
Just have one
Yes,
kind
Rick?
of question that is probably a dumb question, but so they can use wine to prepare food. Can they prepare food at the site and serve it with their wine tasting? Is that what that means, or they can?
So that type of license allows a range of activities, including having a bona fide restaurant on site, which they're not proposing to do. They're just proposing to have the wine tasting component, as far as I understand. But if you have any more operational questions, I would defer to Mark in terms of what he would like to do.
Right, but in terms of, so if they can't serve appetizers, hors d'oeuvres, anything at all? I mean, I understand not a restaurant, but can they serve anything at all with their wine tasting?
This would not preclude them from serving appetizers. They could do so if they so
can.
chose.
Okay, can we have the applicant come and share his vision with us?
Oh, we're live. Hi, my name is Mark Hoover, and thank you for having us and take the time to be with our vision. So, Integrity Wines got founded actually as a dream come true about 3 years ago in a conversation with my wife and my partner, Eric Silverman, who is with me here. It started as an amateur winemaker in 1981, and I've been making wine at an amateur level for over 30 years. So I've had a lot of practice and training, and we decided to go commercial a few years ago. And it started with getting the building on Aviation Way. Our dream is growing faster than we thought it would. We already have a space constraint, which is really great news and a little annoying at the same time, which is a fabulous reception by the community. The community has really acknowledged who we are by their participation and happy to see us. We participated in the Watsonville factory sale in December, and the reception was really huge. I have a vision to expand the business, not only its footprint, its actual footprint, but its relation with the community over time. And I would love to discover more space in this building as soon as possible or close by.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I did drive by today, and I thought it was I mean, I didn't see the inside, but it looks really small.
It is small.
Yes.
Yeah, when we leased the space from Bergstrom Kramer, there was about a 4-week lag time from the time we got the keys, and then by the time we walked in, actually having the keys, we walked in the door and, oh dear, this is kind of tight. But we've been magical on how we've made things work.
And what are the hours of operation for the tasting room?
The tasting room currently is scheduled to be open from 12 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. We may open an hour earlier than that or stay an hour later, but weekends are the time to be open.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commissioners? Yes.
I just thought we'd actually approved a tasting room when we originally did this, but I guess, is there another winery on
There is.
Aviation?
Yes. Well, not on Aviation.
On
Hangar.
Hangar Way.
Hang away.
Hangar Way. We've got Elkhorn Slough Brewery on Hangar Way, and then Wargan
Wargan.
Wines.
And they had the original tasting permit.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yes.
So I'm talking to a different applicant.
Yes. More wine.
And beer, right?
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Jenkins?
Yes, I had the pleasure of going by and meeting Mark and seeing the premises this afternoon. And I observed to him that the tasting room is pretty cozy. I think you may need some more room sometime in the near future, but you'll find that out for yourself.
Yeah.
With respect to the parking, there are a lot of the Central Coast Energy Service folk there in or near that lot. If you might request that they move their vehicles to the other parts of the parking on that parcel, because they have about 10 or 12, maybe more vehicles, and I don't think they operate much on the weekend. I don't know if is Dennis Osmer still running
Yes.
Central Coast?
I think
All right.
so.
Well, he's a very cooperative gentleman. I think he likes wine as well. But
It's a popular topic.
you might see about that. Now, I was very skeptical about this whole proposal until Mark generously offered me a case of wine, a mixed case. And no, I'm just kidding.
Boy.
Boy.
It is
His
your last meeting.
day, right?
Let him rip. It's his last day.
There is one thing that is suggested to me. Susie, do you know how much space is taken at the Watsonville hangar development around the corner?
You mean 45 Aviation, the Beer 30
Yeah.
project?
Yeah, I think they're calling it Watsonville hangar, or
Yeah.
that's in the Knowlton. And what I'm thinking is the Knowlton building.
Well, yeah.
You're asking for the size
Proposed-
of the
Like
existing
the
building?
total square footage.
The total square foot of that building is just shy of 10,000.
Is 4,000?
10,000.
10,000,
10,000.
split into four,
And-
10
Okay,
spaces.
do we know how much is spoken for or filled at this
We-
time?
No.
Thought they were looking for some other businesses.
Great,
Yeah, just walk down the street. They're out there working on it right now.
great.
Ask for one of the Duicks.
That'd be great.
That, in case your tasting room proves quickly inadequate, you might see, because that's going to be a busy place in terms of food and beer and people. They're going to try to draw a lot of people
Right.
into that development, and so you might think about that. But you can move those Central Coast Energy folks to the quieter part of the parking lot. You'll have more space.
So Commissioner Jenkins, I'm going to take action on both your recommendations. And one observation is at the end of the week on Friday, CCCS tends to park their vehicles in the back perimeter of the building.
Oh, okay.
So as
that-
many as you may have seen today, those typically are not there on the weekends.
I see, they'd go around the back. Okay, well, that'll solve a lot of that and create space for your visitors.
Perfect.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I had one question, and
Anna.
excuse my ignorance on this. In the attachment to page 1, it says that the staff is TIPS trained. Is that the same as LEAD?
It is not.
It's not.
It is not.
Okay.
So the entire staff that serves at all anywhere is trained by an ABC approved program anywhere in the state of California. And the police department's requesting leads train, and we all are aware that we need to go take that training, and they're distinct.
Okay, I thought so, but thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other question? Well, thank you. Good luck. Sounds like a great project. I haven't visited, so yes.
Excuse me, I have one other suggestion, and that is, you probably get together with some of the other vintners in the valley and the region here.
Yeah, we're part of the Santa Cruz Mountain Wine Growers Association.
Has anybody ever discussed a Pajaro Valley wine trail?
I don't know, but there is a loosely created Corralitos
Right.
wine trail, but that's pulling in the airport's kind of a stretch.
Well,
Pajaro
Possibly.
Valley.
but it's often occurred to me that, Corralitos is part of the Pajaro Valley,
Beautiful.
and other little regions, sub-regions in the Santa Cruz Mountains and elsewhere have developed these little promotional things. And next time you get together with, Windy Oaks and Alfaro and so on and so forth, Nicholson?
And Nicholson and Michael Morgan Wines.
Right. See if you can't get something going that's the Pajaro Valley Wine Trail or region or something like that.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Oh, public.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm skipping. Well, thank you. You can have a seat.
Thank you.
Do we like to open the public hearing for anybody from the public, if they would like to make any comments about the project? Ms. Pat? See, seeing that we have none, we'll bring it back to the Planning Commission. Any other discussion, or are we ready to make a motion? Motion?
I move
I know.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I second it.
Okay, we have a first and a second.
Dana,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Cammer,
Yes.
Sarmiento.
Yes. Well, the motion passes. Good luck, and I'm sure you'll be open for Valentine's Day, so we'll have to go and check you out. Thank you. Okay.
Do you know the timeline on the Aviation Way development where Knowlton was?
They're currently under construction. I'd have to check my, I have a little cheat sheet. It's a Google Doc on where some of the larger construction projects are. I'm not sure if they've pulled the actual building well, I'm trying to think. I think you guys are good. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. They may or may not have pulled the building permit for actual improvements to the rest of the site, but I know they're out there doing grading and kind of the wall stuff. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I am not aware of what their opening date.
Okay. We have a report from the secretary.
Don't have too much to report, but I did want to chime in regarding Dobie's leaving us. I'm sorry to hear that you're moving on to Santa Cruz. Good, you're going to be in a better place now. But I want to thank you for all the years that you've served on the Planning Commission, and it has been a pleasure working, getting to know you, but I've, of course, worked more with your wife, Anne, on historic preservation projects. But I really appreciate your dedication to wetlands in the area and your work with Wetlands Watch, and I hope that continues, and that we won't, and the birding festival, that's right, that we won't be strangers and that we'll still see around, right? So thank you. Right. Oh, yes, yes. Probably. Thank you. We'll miss you.
So on that, the meeting has been adjourned, and also a reminder that we have our next meeting on Tuesday, March the 6th at 4:30. Is that correct?
And we will be, March 6th or 6th?
It says 6. 4:30?
Hold on. Let me see. March 6th. March 6th. Yeah, that's a Tuesday. March 6th. And that will be the meeting where we finally elect chair and vice chair. No, it doesn't. It starts at 6. You know what? I think that might have been, was that printed out of Legistar? Yeah, see, the council meetings have changed their start time, so it probably carried over in the template. So, same time, 6 o'clock.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.